All right, everyone. So, in this video here, I wanted to talk about not necessarily the Switch itself, but the storage on the Switch now. So, if you're not familiar with the Switch, this is the Switch OLED. So, this technically has 64 gigs of built in storage, but you can expand the storage capabilities with the micro SD card. But SanDisk actually came out recently with a new storage size for the micro SD card, and that is 1.5 terabytes. Yes, no joke here. We now have a legitimate 1.5 terabyte micro SD card that not only works on the Switch, but you can basically use it, on the Steam Deck. If you have a ROG Ally, Lenovo Legion Go, or similar types of devices out there. You might want to double check on other devices that you might have what is the largest capacity that it can support. If you don't know, the Switch actually does support up to 2 terabytes. At least that's the last time I checked. And that was like early on when the Switch first came out. So it's actually kind of amazing when you think about it because a micro SD card, is very, very tiny, especially your fingernail size type card. And we're to the point now that it's at 1.5 terabytes. Now, even though the Switch does support up to 2 terabytes, well, even like 7 years later, when the Switch came out, there's still no 2 terabyte micro SD card. That is partly because obviously when it comes to the file size or like the storage size, you know, for a small little micro SD card, that's actually asking a lot. And the fact that SanDisk is the first one to come out commercially with a 1.5 terabytes, that's actually pretty amazing. So if I go to, the system settings, data management, you can see here, not even halfway full, but I still have 818 gigabytes of free space left. That's actually pretty amazing. Now, of course, okay, why is it doing that? Okay, this was actually unplanned, honestly. But you know what? Let me go ahead and turn this off. And let me go ahead and take this micro SD card out. Now, one thing I've noticed very quickly is that the back of this micro SD card is not entirely the same like a typical micro SD card. So if I do have, actually, kind of wish I had it lying around already. Maybe. All right, so I found a random micro SD card. So, by the way, this is the micro SD card. It's a SanDisk Ultra, 1.5 terabytes. And if you notice, the back of this, you kind of notice there's like a rectangular shape thing in the back. Now, here's a different one, a Samsung Evo, 512 gigabytes. So, you got that. If I flip it over, you're going to notice, it's completely flat. Well, being that this has a terabyte more storage, it seems like to get it to this point, they had no choice but to basically cut out the area where the storage is and needed slightly more room. So even at this stage, which in of itself is still impressive, but they still couldn't get small enough where they can do like the flat back of it. So there is a slight hump. And because of that, it is a slightly tighter fit. So it doesn't go in as smoothly as a typical micro SD card, but it will go in, obviously, but it is going to be somewhat of a tighter fit. So one thing I do is once it seats in there, I give it a slight tug to make sure it's like properly seated. And then I just close up the kickstand and turn it back on. So that is something you want to keep in mind when it comes to the micro SD card. And this is not necessarily just a Switch thing. It can be like other devices also. But that is something to keep in mind. So in terms of performance, I haven't really noticed any real difference. Now, these micro SD cards, at least the newer, higher capacity ones, they're rated for much faster speeds than the read-write speed the Switch is able to support. So you don't really necessarily have to worry about that at this point. Just at this point, just find the highest capacity micro SD card you can find at a price you're willing to pay for. Just make sure you're buying it from a reputable source. So this micro SD card, I bought it through Amazon. That was shipped and sold by Amazon. That's something you have to keep in mind too. When it comes to micro SD cards, I just buy them from trusted sources. If I'm buying it from Amazon, I want to make sure it's shipped and sold by Amazon. I'm lucky enough to have a micro center near me, so I would just go there. You can go to Walmart, Target, even Best Buy, places like that. You know, as long as you're buying these micro SD cards from trusted sources, you should be okay. The problem comes in is where you start buying it from like third-party sellers. Unfortunately, because of the rampant counterfeit micro SD cards out there, they're basically faking a lot of the popular brands. So that's kind of why you kind of want to just stick to reputable places, especially if you're going to be spending this kind of money. Now, I have to admit, I thought this micro SD card was actually going to be a lot more expensive, but truthfully, it was only $150. That's not a sale price. That's the MSRP price. So that is SanDisk just basically dictating, hey, this is going to be priced at $149.99 in all places that is going to be selling this. We're selling it at this price. And the fact that starting out of the gate is $150. I remember back in the day when the 1 terabyte first came out, that was like over like $250 or so. The fact that in 2023 we now have a 1.5 terabyte micro SD card starting at 150 bucks, that just shows you that most likely by the time a 2 terabyte drive or 2 terabyte micro SD card comes out, that is probably going to start at the $150 mark, honestly. And because the Switch supports up to 2 terabytes anyway, not necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, it's a complete overkill for the Switch. I would say for 90% of the Switch owners out there, yeah, 1.5 terabyte is complete overkill. For me, because I do actually plan on just keeping the Switch even after Nintendo comes out with a Switch successor, I'd rather just try to get the largest capacity micro SD card possible, and then that way I can just start downloading the rest of the games. And that's one of the things I'm planning on doing after this video, is going back to the eShop and re-downloading all of the games I have actually purchased, because I'm almost certain it's pretty much all going to fit on here at this point. So that's part of the reason why, is I also want all of the games I bought on my Switch. Now, it might be a complete overkill, and for most people, yes, but I'm not the majority when it comes to a consumer. So that's why I'm doing it. But anyway, I just want to make this video real quick and just show you that, hey, there's a 1.5 terabyte micro SD card that you can use on your Switch. So there you go. It's there. So it is what it is. One thing I kind of wish Nintendo did was allowed USB storage. So if you have like a USB drive, that you can just plug it in, and then that way when you're home or docked in the docking station, you have access to the rest of the games. That actually would be nice, but so far, no. So we're basically left with this solution, and yeah, that's gonna be pretty sweet. So games like Fortnite and other games, I haven't noticed any real performance difference with this drive, so that's a good thing. And yeah, I'll end it here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and like always, have a good one.